Good afternoon and welcome to Brewing. I'm your host. My name's Scott Leffler. I do this every day at 12:30, except I won't be doing it tomorrow because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. That makes today Wednesday, November 21st, 2012, in the year of our Lord. We have a few topics to discuss today. Sorry about that. Coffee. Coffee's good for you. I'm a big fan. We're going to talk about election fraud allegations. We're going to talk about more split within the Republican Party and this guy that says that it's just all window dressing, doesn't matter. We're going to talk about the future of the internet, and we're going to talk about nudity in San Francisco because they are banning nudity in San Francisco, and this is a fun and funny story. We're not going to talk about the glare on my glasses, and we're not going to talk about the general lighting issues that we have today. Watch today's show with your eyes closed, which is actually how I recommend that you watch every day's show because that way you don't have to look at me. But you can still hear the wisdom that comes from my mouth. All right, so there's this news organization called Q-Star News, and they have created a website called BarackOfraudo.com. Ha ha ha. This news organization, if you will, claims that Obama committed vote fraud in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And as proof, they offer a lot of circumstantial evidence, which proves absolutely nothing. But hey, Obama won, and he's black, so he must have cheated somehow because that's the only way he could have won because, you know, the white guy didn't win. This is my take on it. I tend to, and this might be horrible of me, but I tend to think that that's how Republicans sort of view things, that like the only way the black guy could win is by cheating. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, whatever. But they offer a bunch of circumstantial evidence as proof. And their big piece of proof that they use is a voter comparison chart that we discussed last week between 2008 and 2012. Now, this comparison chart was posted on Nate Silver's blog, which is 538.newyorktimesblogs.newyorktimes.theinternetneverends.com. I don't know what it is. Just Google Nate Silver, and you'll see it. So they use this chart, or actually, better than that. I have a link on Twitter to a post discussing this topic. Actually, I think all of today's topics I linked to Twitter already. So if you follow my Twitter feed and you've read all this stuff, then you already know today's lesson plan. What you don't know is my thoughts on it. And really, that's what you watch the show for, is my incredibly interesting thoughts on a variety of topics, including Barack Obama vote fraud, or Barack Ofraudo, if you prefer. So they use Nate Silver's voter comparison chart that we discussed last week to prove that there was vote fraud in the 2012 election. Now, according to this chart, which we discussed again last week, some states voted more in 2012 than they did in 2008. Those states include Nevada, Wisconsin, Colorado, South Carolina. Battleground states. Some states voted less. These states include Ohio and Pennsylvania, also battleground states. Now, they are saying, this Barack Ofraudo, Q-Star News, whatever it is saying that Q-Star, is that like Quick Star? Is this like a branch of Amway? Is this Amway News? I'm wondering that myself. So they're saying that the higher vote totals in these states like Nevada, Wisconsin, Colorado, South Carolina are due to ballot box stuffing. They're claiming that more people voted than could have possibly voted, and that's the only way that Obama won. Now, in the states where there were less votes, they're claiming voter suppression. I find it interesting that, you know, they say, this website says that overall voter suppression was the goal. They wanted to keep legitimate voters from voting because the legitimate voters would have voted for Mitt Romney. Well, they stuffed the ballot box with their fake votes for Obama. Personally, I think the whole thing is bullshit, but that's just me. I think it's interesting to note, by the way, that their main piece of proof in this vote fraud scam is supplied by Nate Silver. So they take Nate Silver's numbers and say, here's the proof. They, however, ignore everything that Nate Silver said up to then, which was the fact that Obama was going to win the 4 states that they're saying that he cheated in: Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia. So he said that Obama's going to win these states. That's not important. But these numbers that he has that shows that voter discrepancy numbers, that's important. I don't understand. Basically, I feel like the people behind Q Star News want to have their cake and eat it too, which is a phrase that I really hate, but whatever. It's a phrase that's out there. I've never understood the point of having cake if you don't get to eat it. So they're saying that there's vote fraud and that's the only possible way that Obama could win. I don't know if they're going to try and make anything of this, but it's fun. It's interesting. Keep in mind that the election is not finalized. Keep in mind that Barack Obama has not actually been reelected as president of the United States. It's just that he has more electoral college votes at this point in time. But those electoral college votes can vote however they want. And if it's proven that he defrauded the system, we could still end up with a President Romney. Or for that matter, a President Loeffler. The Electoral College can do whatever the hell they want to. I have a feeling Obama's okay. That's just me. Now, I've been discussing the war for the Republican Party between the moderate Republicans and the Tea Party radicals. There's a columnist by the name of Ed Kilgore who says that none of my discussion, not talking about me specifically, of course, but none of this discussion about the battle for the Republican Party really matters. It's all just a sideshow. I'm going to read part of this column here because it's kind of interesting. I like this guy's voice. The columnists that I like, it doesn't matter to me so much what your opinion is. What I really enjoy is people who actually have a voice that I can hear in my head. I do hear voices in my head. Sometimes they tell me to drink coffee. But that's about the worst of it. So he says, yes, years from now, conservatives will sit around campfires and sing songs about the legendary battles of late 2012 when father fought son and brother fought brother as to whether 98% or 99% of abortion should be banned, whether undocumented workers should be branded and utilized as guest workers, loaded onto cattle cars and shipped home, or simply immiserated, whether the New Deal/Great Society program should be abolished in order to cut upper income taxes or abolished in order to boost Pentagon spending. There's also a vicious take no prisoners fight over how quickly return the role of government to the economy of the pre-1930s role as a handmaiden industry. Blood will flow in the streets as Republicans battle over how to deal with health care after Obamacare is repealed, and 50 million or so people lose health insurance. Tax credits and risk pools are just personal responsibility. Basically, what Kilgore's getting at here is that Republicans are all evil, and the degree of their evilness doesn't really matter. Whether we end up with the Tea Party or whether we end up with the moderates, they're still wrong. I don't necessarily agree that Republicans are evil. I don't even necessarily agree that they're wrong. They are right on certain points, hence libertarian. But I think that his column is very interesting, and it's something that I plan on thinking about more in the future. I mean, personally, I think that moderate Republicans who have the ability to negotiate with Democrats and come to some middle ground and maybe move this country forward, I think they're good. I think that the Tea Party radical types who want nothing other than Barack Obama's demise and a return to the times when there were no safety nets for anything, and pretty much if you were rich, you got to stay rich, and if you were poor, you had to stay poor. I think that those people are bad. So I do think that this fight over the Republican Party is really a fight for the future of the nation, because if the Tea Party wins, well, it could be good or bad. If the Tea Party wins, I think that there are too many people in the country who view them as being radical. And I think that they'll lose for a long time against Democrats. So that's good for Democrats. But if the moderate wing of the Republican Party wins, and I guess the moderates wouldn't be a wing, would they? They would be the center. If the center of the Republican Party wins, then there can be some real dialogue, some real discussion, some compromise, and we can move this country forward in a way that's beneficial to all, which means the Democrats don't win, because I don't want the Democrats to win either, because I don't necessarily think that they're all right either. So, but this column by Ed Kilgore, if you're from Buffalo, he's not the same Ed Kilgore, by the way. It's a different Ed Kilgore. How many Ed Kilgores can there be? There's a lot of Scott Loefflers, so why can't there be a lot of Ed Kilgores? I was just surprised by the name. Link is on Twitter. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Right pipe that time. So Google is starting a push, if you will, at google.com/takeaction, /takeaction. And according to this page on their website, In December, the International Telecommunications Union is bringing together regulators from around the world to renegotiate a decades-old communications treaty. Apparently, there's a communications treaty that basically says that phone numbers are 10 digits long, and you add in the country code, and blah, 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 and a variety of other things. Well, they want to add the internet to this treaty. Now, this is a multi-nation treaty that allows them to set the policy for the internet. Now, the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, is comprised of governments and only governments. It's not comprised of people. It's not comprised of businesses. It's not comprised of the technology industry. It's not comprised of engineers. It is just comprised of government. This treaty will be in the best interest of governments, which does not necessarily, and in fact not usually, mean the best interest of people. Now, many of these governments already don't support a free and open internet. They do everything they can to quash dissent. They do everything they can to keep people in line. And so allowing them to dictate internet policy worldwide, because this would essentially be a worldwide treaty, is bad for us. It's bad for everybody, and if it's bad for everybody, then it's going to be bad for us. Now, the United States has not necessarily come out in support of, well, no, they have. I mean, we do support internet restrictions sometimes, but not all of them. We hear all the time on the news that, like, oh, in China you can't use Google, and in China you can't do this, and they make it sound so horrible. In these, in these other countries, they really restrict things. Well, we do the same basic things here, just to a lesser degree. And we say that it's for national security. One proposal before the ITU would allow them to censor free speech and even cut off internet access. If, for example, there's a riot in Manhattan, they could, as per this treaty, if this part of it is approved, they could completely just turn off the internet. Done. And this has happened in other countries, allegedly, where the people are rioting, or the people are upset, the people are angry, they're thinking about rioting, and so they're using Facebook and Twitter and whatever to get together, and the country's like, oops, sorry, no internet. So now you got to meet at Starbucks and whatever. The internet is good for us. It's good for the people. It's good for you. It's good for me. I wouldn't have a show without it, obviously. I wouldn't have much of a life without it, for that matter. So any restriction to the internet, I think, is bad. Now, you could say, for moral reasons, well, what about porn websites, and what about this, and what about that, and what about kiddie porn? And look, I'm not saying that everything in the world is good. What I am saying is that regulating the internet for the sake of weeding out some bad apples is bad policy overall. And giving someone a kill switch to turn off the internet is horrible. It's a horrible idea, because if there were, some sort of a situation, how are you going to get a hold of your people? How are you going to get a hold of your friends and your loved ones, and etc.? And if they can turn off the internet, why wouldn't they also be able to turn off phones and fax machines and cable and etc.? So allowing government to do this, to get together and decide what's best for us, because it's not what's best for us, keep in mind, it's what's best for them. These are the people in power. Their primary concern is to stay in power. So I think it's interesting that Google is taking this step. Google is being very proactive on this to let people know, hey, in December this meeting's going to happen. Don't let them get away with it. So I think that's very interesting. Go to google.com/takeaction, or there is a link, of course, on my Twitter, twitter.com/Scott Leffler, where if you went right now, you would see that link and a variety of other things, and you could comment on today's show, although I haven't actually checked to see if anyone has commented. I don't get nearly as many as I would like to, but, crap, I'm not even signed into Twitter. All right, signing into Twitter. You can't see this, right? I don't want you to see my password, because then you could tweet as me, and then that would be bad. Yesterday I got a retweet from, I got a response from Bill Lumberg from Office Space, and then Office Space itself favorited one of my tweets. I thought that was kind of funny. I had computer problems at work last night, and so it was a picture of my junked up computer, and it said PC load letter. WTF is that? Anyway, doesn't matter. Office Space. If you've never seen Office Space, you have to. It's one of my favorite movies in the history of ever. Sorry, excuse me. Two more things. Which way do I go first? San Francisco. Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. So in San Francisco, it's pretty much a free-for-all, which is awesome for San Francisco. It's nice to have, in my opinion, there should be different communities with different sets of standards. In San Francisco, it has been the standard that public nudity is okay. You can just walk around nude, you can get on the bus with your junk hanging out and do whatever, and that's been okay. Now, San Francisco lawmakers yesterday voted narrowly to ban public nakedness, despite concerns primarily from the gay community that it would undermine the city's reputation as a free haven for free expression. The Board of Supervisors voted 6-5 in favor of a public safety ordinance that prohibits exposed genitalia in most public places, including streets, sidewalks, and buses, for example, and trolleys, because they're big on the trolleys, right? That took on a whole new meaning. Anyway, the law must still pass a final vote and has to get the mayor's signature in order to take effect early next year, but it looks like, for the most part, this is a done deal. Now, the funny thing is, the guy that was pushing for this law, the guy that wanted to ban public nudity, was a guy named Supervisor Scott Wiener. No shit, ladies and gentlemen. Scott Wiener wanted to ban public nudity in San Francisco because there's apparently increasing complaints about a specific group of men whose bare bodies are on display almost daily in these cities' predominantly gay Castro district. I think it's bad when we create policy to deal with a specific group of people. That's just my personal opinion. Now, look, there's been a lot of comment on this. I've seen a lot of different people's point of view, and I'm personally not a big fan of public nudity, and here's why. The people that you want to be walking around nude don't. And the people that are walking around nude, you don't want to see nude. I find this to typically be the case. Not that I've really spent any time in nude communities, but I've seen photos and what have you. Look, the people that you want to see nude, they keep their clothes on. The people that look good naked keep their clothes on. The people that are fat and ugly, they're like, hey, let's just run around and be naked. So look, I don't want public nudity here in Lockport, New York, or in Buffalo for that matter. But if they want to be naked in San Francisco, if that's their community standard, then have at it. I like the idea of there being different community standards. I like the idea of people in San Francisco being able to do what San Franciscans want to do. And look, if you go to San Francisco and you're like, I don't like all this naked shit, well then don't go to San Francisco. I don't like overwhelming heat, so I don't go to Florida. I don't like cockroaches, so I don't hang out in filthy apartments in Brooklyn or wherever you would find. I guess you could find cockroaches anywhere, but look, I keep myself in situations that I'm comfortable with. If you're comfortable with a situation, you have your own rules. When you come into my house, I suggest, I don't force people to, but I suggest that you keep your shoes on. Why? Because I keep my shoes on. And so my floors have shoe stuff on them. And so if you take your shoes off, your socks are going to get dirty. All right? When I go to your house, if your policy is to take your shoes off at the door, guess what I do? I take my shoes off at the door. Now, that's not to say that if I went to San Francisco, I'd walk around nude. Although, maybe I would, because I'm one of the people you don't want to see nude. So maybe I'm that guy. I don't know. But different communities have different standards, and you can't expect the world to all have one standard. I'm a firm believer that there's a reason that the United States is made up the way it is. I think that different areas can have different laws. I don't, for the most part, believe that there should be federal laws. I don't even think that there should be a federal law against murder. I believe that if the state of Hawaii wanted to allow murder, they should be allowed to. I don't think that the federal government should have the right to tell the state of Hawaii what to do. This goes for just about everything. Drugs and sex and violence. And there are moral standards that I believe in, but that doesn't mean that you have to believe in those same moral standards. My moral standard says keep my clothes on in public. But If you disagree, then you should be allowed to disagree. And if you live in a community where it is, for the most part, allowable that you walk around nude, then dude, have at it. Have fun. That's just my personal opinion. So you may think differently. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I will be cooking Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm quite looking forward to it. It's going to be myself, my mother, who I haven't had Thanksgiving with in a few years, because I haven't had Thanksgiving in a few years. I've skipped out on Thanksgiving because I'm not a big fan of Thanksgiving. So it's going to be me and my mom. We're going to do it here at the Leffler residence. I guess it would be the Leffler residence at my mom's too, but we're going to do it at my Leffler residence. It's going to be me and mom. I won't have the kids. They'll be with their mother tomorrow. My girlfriend Heather will be joining us, as will her children and her brother. Now, what makes this more interesting is that her children and brother have never met my mother. So, although Heather and I have been together not quite 2 years, a year and 9 months, my mom is yet to meet her side of the family, if you will. So she's meeting most of them tomorrow. I'm kind of excited about this. Really, I'm not nervous at all. No stress, no pressure. I'm cooking a turkey, which is in the fridge and defrosting. And I really hope that it's going to be completely defrosted by tomorrow, because it was a frozen turkey that I got yesterday. So I left it in the sink for a while and just let it do its thing, and now it's in the fridge, and so, but we're eating early, so I've got to take it out really early and get it cooking really early. In fact, I'll probably start prep tonight when I get home from work. Cooking a turkey, cooking some stuffing, cooking mashed potatoes, cooking some yams, cooking green beans, cooking cranberries. No, not cooking cranberry sauce, having cranberry sauce. The canned kind. Hold on, this kind. I love this stuff. And you open the can and then you turn it over and it goes, and it still is can shaped. Although this can doesn't have the ridges. I like the cans with the ridges because then the cranberry sauce itself still has the ridges and it looks funny. It's ribbed for our eating pleasure. Cranberry sauce, mom's bringing pie, and deviled eggs. So I'm excited about this. And then tomorrow night I have to work. So as a result, no show tomorrow. I am actually thinking about doing a pre-recorded thing to run tomorrow, just in case you're bored and you come. But that's going to depend on how I feel after work tonight. I have an early deadline, and Wednesdays are generally stressful anyway. So maybe if you come back tomorrow, you will find that there is a new show dealing specifically with Thanksgiving. Maybe you won't. I don't know, but check it anyway, because, you never know. And then Friday I'll be back and we'll talk about more stuff. Maybe we'll talk about Black Friday on Friday, because I love Black Friday shopping. And you should too, and I'll tell you why on Friday, maybe. I don't know, or maybe I'll do something completely different. Long story short, this has been a long story, and I'm cutting it short now. You've been watching Brewing. I'm Scott Leffler. Have a great Wednesday. Love you.